back to Scoundrels, Inc., another Star Wars podcast. I am Frank Janish alongside Brandon Hanna and Kevin Smets. This week, we are talking about, we're debating, we're fighting over, we're conversing over Star Wars fan theories. Kevin found something that he wants to talk about with us, and it sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun, but if it's your first time here, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the podcast feed, follow all our social medias, join our Discord. The links for all of that are in the description, so go ahead and do that. Help us out. Help us reach 600 subscribers on this channel. Would mean a lot to us. But Kevin, I'm going to turn over the controls to you. You're going to drive this ship. It's all yours. Take it away.
Yeah, listen. Lists are good, but it's time to switch it up a little bit. Why not have a little fun? And talk about some wacky Star Wars theories. There's plenty of them out there. I think we've all had our own. And maybe at the end, I'll ask the panel if they want to share some of their own theories that maybe they didn't get off a website. But I found a couple of websites that were kind of just listing off some of the more fun fan theories. So we're just going to get underway. We're not listing them. We're not going to rank them or anything like that. That's not what we're about here. I'm just going to read them and we're just going to react. So we're going to go through, and maybe some of you guys in the comments below can leave some of your theories that you found interesting. So my first theory actually comes from Screen Rant. It is that Brandon Hanna and Frank Janish have never seen my KOTOR movies. That's weird.
Mm-hmm. It's actually not true. I was actually watching the first one with my roommate David like a couple weeks ago.
My movie?
Yeah.
A Familiar Path?
Yes.
Without wings?
Save the third one for me, though. Man, I didn't know that. Why didn't you tell me? You guys stop it. It was bad, huh? You stopped it. That's why you didn't want to tell me.
Well, I started it late, so I only got like halfway through, and then I ended up going to bed. But
okay. Well,
I started
that's nice. Thank you. I appreciate it. Are you watching it from the 6-hour cut?
Oh no, I found the remastered, the special edition one. Should I do the 6-hour thing?
The 6-hour cut is just your safest bet, because when you get to episode 2, it combines the film festival version of episode 2 with the longer deleted scenes.
Okay.
So your best bet is to go to that. Although you'll miss the crawls on the second and the third one. So whatever, however you want to do it. But at least for the second movie, go to the 6-hour cut. All right, here we go with our second theory. That's our first theory.
Debunked. Half debunked, because I know Brandon.
Yes, not from Brandon. Brandon saw my speeder bike cut, right? Is that what you always say?
I've seen the speeder bike. It's not in the game. It's a completely original scene.
Not in the game.
I'm getting proud of it. Listen, everywhere I go, when we were in Big Bear over the holiday, we had a not bed and breakfast, an Airbnb, and on all the TVs, I went to their YouTube, which has never touched Revan or KOTOR or anything. And whenever I do it on a new computer, that's how you see. Like if someone searches KOTOR, sometimes you go to a computer and it takes fucking 50. You're like, oh man, and then it finally shows me. But at this house in Big Bear, when you search KOTOR movie, we were like second on the list. When you search KOTOR, fifth on the list. When you search Revan, we were ninth on the list. So climbing up there in the search results. Here comes our next theory. It is that Satine's nephew, his name, if I remember, is Corky. Sounds like a dog, to be honest, but it's his name.
Corky Romano.
Satine's nephew is Obi-Wan Kenobi's son, and it is no secret that Obi-Wan's history with Satine is a complicated one, my friends. The two clearly had romantic feelings for each other. They do their best to try to hide them when they're interacting in the Clone Wars, but we know they fucked. Come on. We know that they got down, dude. Obi-Wan showed his saber to young. Shortly after Satine's introduction into the show, her nephew Corky makes an appearance. Hi, I'm Corky. Corky Kenobi.
They call him CK for short.
Just call
him CK. Just call him CK.
Yeah. Please bring shorts back just for that. Corky makes an appearance, and it's hard to ignore his similarities to a certain Jedi Knight, particularly because Satine seems to only have one other sibling in the Prince royal family, and Bo-Katan is not Corky's mother. Huh. Could it actually be the secret son of Satine and Obi-Wan? And I will send this link to you in the chat, Frank, so you can use these stills when you get to it. Don't look at it now because I don't want you to spoil what we're going. But what do you guys think? Do you have is this a myth? Is this fact or debunked? What say you? We'll go around first with you, Frank.
Look, I think it would not be. I don't think this theory would be upheld just because of who Obi-Wan Kenobi is. I think Obi-Wan Kenobi is more disciplined, for better or for worse, to adhere to the Jedi code, and I don't think he's going to do anything to, invalidate his oath, if you will. Like, there's a point where he said to Satine, he's like, hey, if you had said the word, I would have left the Jedi Order. But that never happened, so therefore he never did anything to jeopardize his standing, his oath with the Jedi. So I'm going to say that he did not, although it would be great if it was, but it just wouldn't, to me, in my opinion, wouldn't fit the character of Obi-Wan to do it while he was still a Jedi. If he left the Jedi Order, he would totally... The what?
Most behaved Jedi of all is Yoda, as Mark Ellis in his stand-up used to say. Yoda was 800 years old, and not a single complaint by any secretary in the Jedi Council or the Jedi Temple. Right. So, that's good. Brandon, so you're saying it's not real? You don't think Obi-Wan was? I
don't think he did it. I don't think he would have done it. I don't think he would.
He loved her though.
Oh yeah, he did.
I think Frank makes a good point. He's not like Anakin. He's not gonna try to have his cake and eat it too. He's gonna pick one or the other. And I feel like, is this quirky character alive during the original trilogy? Because I feel like Obi-Wan would enlist the help of his son to take down the Empire. I mean, if you got Kenobi blood flowing through your veins, you're like a force to be reckoned with. I mean, that guy beats the crap out of Darth Vader on multiple occasions.
Right.
So I think I'd have to agree with Frank.
I think he boned. I say it's true.
Do.
I'd like to think that poor guy, after living in the desert, well, I mean, he later lives in the desert. I'm just hoping he had something to think about when he was alone in that cave. So I'm going Obi-Wan.
He was probably thinking about all his missed opportunities, not the ones he capitalized on.
That's even more sad, man. It makes me feel so. Hey, man, hopefully he was just hooking up with all the people on Tatooine.
The Jawas, all the Jawas.
Well, then the Jedi religion was he was the last of it, so All right, here's our next theory. This would be fun for user next time. We have users kind of send in their theories and we can go over it. Han Solo activated Kylo Ren's lightsaber. Han Solo's sudden death was at the hands of his son, and it was shocking. But this theory makes things even more complicated. This comes from Screen Rant, by the way. I want to give credit to where credit is due. Please link it in the comments section or the description. Kylo Ren was clearly at the odds with himself by the time he reunited with his father, and he tearfully admits that even though he knows what he needs to do, he isn't sure he has the strength to do it. After his father lovingly promises to help him, Ren's saber ignites, cutting him down. And it's his last tie to the light side of the Force, or so it seems. This theory speculates that Han knew exactly what his son was trying to go through and realized that the shock of loss would ultimately plant the seeds for Kylo Ren's redemption later on. Igniting the lightsaber himself, Han sacrifices his own life in hope of saving his sons as well. This would explain Kylo's surprised expression as he falls off the bridge. What say you, Brandon Hanna? We'll start with you this time. Fact, fiction, myth, or reality? What do you got?
I think that's a good theory. I always thought it was either one or the other. He either ignites it himself, or he just kind of helps aim it towards him, and then Kylo ignites it.
It's dark, man.
It's hard to say. Yeah, it's an interesting scene. It's clearly Kylo did need some sort of assistance, whether it was voluntary or involuntary. I don't know. I would say, as the Mythbusters would say, this one's plausible.
Ooh.
So what I'll say is, I think by having Han Solo initiate his death, kind of robs the purpose that Kylo was after in terms of delving deeper into the dark side. If Han does it, that does nothing for Kylo and his path on the dark side. That doesn't help it at all. That doesn't draw him further away from the light. And it doesn't draw him deeper into the dark side by Han Solo essentially robbing him of that, which Kylo is in search of. He's trying to He's praying to Darth Vader's mask. He's like, teach me, I will finish what you begun, blah, 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 blah. And if Han Solo is the one that turns the saber onto himself and stabs himself, that robs Kylo. If anything, I mean, that would infuriate Kylo, but it doesn't do what Snoke is telling Kylo he needs to do in order to become deeper with the dark side of the Force. So I want to say that's not plausible, to borrow a Mythbuster phraseology.
Yeah, I don't. Brandon, what do you think?
I start off by saying it was plausible, as the Mythbusters would say.
Yeah, I don't think so.
You know what?
I think he believed his son. He was doing, and it makes it like, bring our son home. Like Leia's like begging and asking for the son to be home. You know what I mean? And like, I think it makes it even more heartbreaking that he believes, Leia believes it so much that she's sending Han there to try to bring him home. And I think even Han's like, it's too late for him. You know what I mean? Like our son is gone or whatever, but he still does it out of the love for Leia. It makes me love their relationship even more. How tragic it is. You know what I mean? But yeah, I'm gonna have to say that it could be plausible. Like I love good theories, and there's some crazy ones out here for our show, but I'm not really buying this one.
I actually have a Harrison Ford right here to tell us the answer. Harrison, what do you think? Did you do it? I don't care. He doesn't care.
Yeah, he doesn't care. He doesn't care. Look at that. Okay.
Yeah.
Coming to you in live HD here. This is a silly one, but we'll wrap it off in a little bit. I'll go back to this one. I like this one. Theory. Vader kept hiring Boba Fett because he reminded him of Captain Rex. Boba Fett was Vader's personal bounty hunter, even taking on personal important jobs like tracking down Luke when the Sith Lord wanted information about the rebel who destroyed the Death Star. A more detailed look at this relationship hinges on Boba Fett's father, Jango Fett, who provided the DNA for all the clone troopers. This included Captain Rex, who fought alongside Anakin in the Clone Wars. The two had a very close friendship that was founded on mutual respect. And though Vader might not harbor the same sympathies he had as Anakin, it's not hard to believe he would subliminally find comfort in hearing Rex's voice. I never thought about this until literally this day, Wednesday, January 3rd, 2024, that when he's talking to Boba Fett on that in The Empire Strikes Back, he's no good to me dead. Like that. No, that's not the line he says. What I forget. He's talking about no disintegrations.
No disintegrations. Yeah.
He's talking to his butt. He maybe in his heart of hearts, he's just reminded of Captain Rex, and that's pretty cool. So I think the theory is probably not why he's hiring Boba Fett all these times, because obviously when it was written, it wasn't that. But if you want to retroactively make that a myth, I will say and confirm that though he's not hiring him because of that, when he does hear his voice, he's always like, man, you sound like my buddy from the Clone Wars. What do you think, Frank?
Yeah, I do like this one, actually, because you're right. I think similar voice, same voice. It would harken back to, the Clone War era days, when he was leading the charge, Anakin, that is. I dig that kind of, I don't know, would it be a retcon of sorts, I guess, in a way?
Definitely, yeah. So,
I quite enjoy it. That's a good one. I like that one a lot, actually. Yeah.
Had you ever heard of it before?
I've never heard of that, but it's gonna actually, when I watch those scenes now again, it's gonna be a little bit more fun to think like, yeah, it's because he's like thinking about Rex or Cody or whoever, any other of his clones that he
during your Super Watch, right? Because you're in your Super Watch, right?
Yeah, I'm almost finished actually. Yeah.
Yeah. Brandon, what do you think?
I don't know. I think he just hires him because Boba Fett's the best in the business, and nobody likes Cad Bane anyway. So,
well, he's dead at this point.
Nobody likes Cad Bane.
No,
he's alive. He's alive.
He's alive and well, my friend.
Right.
Book of
this
Boba
one's
Fett.
great. Again, I didn't hear about this until January 3rd, 2024. Luke Skywalker didn't even know his own last name. Hiding Luke from his father, because I used to always think this, like, why would you bring Luke Skywalker to the planet, like advertising his name so Vader would hear of a Skywalker going to fucking school at Tatooine High, and that's Tatooine High School, home of the Banthas. Hiding Luke from his father doesn't seem like it would be very effective if he's still going by Anakin's last name. So this theory, and this is now my headcanon theory, suggests that Luke didn't actually go by Luke Skywalker. until he learned about his Jedi heritage from Ben Kenobi. After the murder of his aunt and uncle, Luke decides to shoulder his father's legacy. Curious if the novel expounds upon this. The first time he actually calls himself Luke Skywalker isn't until he introduces himself to Leia as they rescue her from the Death Star. This Star Wars theory, it makes a lot of sense. I love it. It's my new headcanon. He probably lived his days as Luke Baru. Or not Luke Baru.
Luke Lars.
Luke Lars. And all his buddies called him L Square, dude. L Square, dude. Double L, bro. Luke Lars.
And then
Double L.
Vader's just checking in on Tatooine, and he's like, "Oh, looks like my stepbrother had a kid. That's nice. Good for them. I always liked the two of them together."
Well, obviously he's on Tatooine because Vader's afraid of sand. And I was talking with Brandon in between shows, or while we were waiting for Frank. Frank, do you think that Anakin likes eating sandwiches, or does he not like those either?
I think he stays away from the word entirely in any way, shape, or form.
Could you imagine a Night Sister in the dunes of Tatooine? Terrifying.
Wait, so hold on. I want to go back to this theory real quick. Luke.
Yeah. What do you think?
Wait, so when does Luke doesn't know his last name is Skywalker until he talks to Kenobi in the hut?
Pretend like it's a deleted scene we never got to see. Where
Sure.
After the uncle died, he's like, dude, your father's name was... Well, then he knew that his father was a navigator on a spice frigate. But maybe he still knew... Like, did he know to hide and he had to be careful? Or did he not know his true purpose? Like, you know how, like, Obi-Wan tells Leia at the end of the Obi-Wan show, like, we have to be very careful.
Yeah.
Like, did Luke have any such worries? I mean, he kind of looks like a dumb kid at the end of the show where he's like, hey, little Luke. But no offense to the actor. I'm just saying, like, he has, like, this, like, kid face.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what it's basically saying. You missed a scene where he's like, not only was your father a navigator on a space frigate, your last name is actually Skywalker. And he's like, oh, well, I always gone by Luke Lars. And then when they die, then he says, I want to come back. I want to learn the ways of the Force. And I'm taking, it's like when Rey decides that she's going to be a Skywalker. He probably did the same thing. That same lady probably asked and said, whoa, Luke Lars. And he's like, no,
who?
I'm Luke Skywalker.
Luke who?
No, I don't know about all that.
It would be really funny for him to, and she's like, it's just really funny for Luke to be so confident when he meets Leia. Who the hell are you? I'm Luke Skywalker. Like, so confident. Like,
wouldn't you be stoked if you found out like your last name was like
maybe, I don't know,
Ditka as a Chicagoan, right? And you found out that like Mike Ditka was actually your real father. So then you just started going around. And you're like, oh, my name is Frank Ditka. I'm here to rescue you.
Here's where I think it's not an issue is that, like Tatooine's in the Outer Rim. Yeah, I don't think it necessarily falls under Empire jurisdiction. Like I don't think they're a part of the yearly census, Like I don't I don't think he's a like I think like the Empire definitely has a presence and they could just show up and boss people around because they have more firepower than everybody else. But I don't think they're necessarily a part of the government, and just like how like the Republic doesn't have any jurisdiction over Tatooine in the prequels. So that's kind of like my feelings about it, where it's just like no one's paying attention to like the last names of people that live outside Mos Eisley. Who cares? Just a kid in a hut, man. The moisture farmer.
I also have like this is way off topic, sort of. And maybe this is in a book somewhere, but like if we're to believe that like Plagueis manifested a child in Shmi, did Sidious not know that? And if he did know that, why would he like not continuously monitor that situation and follow Shmi and just keep tabs on like how old is this kid now? 8, 9? Yeah, okay. Now we snag him and start training him in the ways of the Sith. Why go through this elaborate plan of like have Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, bring him into the Jedi Order, and then I'm going to manipulate him. Whereas you could have just picked him up when he was like 8 years old and be like, no, Jedi are bad, Sith good, indoctrinate him at an early age, I don't know. Anyways.
Frank, you did the verbal equivalent of those memes where like they make sense, and then the last shot is it's directed by George Lucas.
Right.
Because they needed to take down the Jedi from the inside.
It's still stupid to name yourself Luke Skywalker. You're trying to run from fucking Anakin Skywalker.
Also,
end of story.
Full disclosure, I don't even care. That's not, if you get bogged down in those kind of little details, you'll ruin every movie from here on out to the end of time. It's just a fun thing to talk about for sure. But it's a fun I think it's great that someone came up with that. Be like, hey, what if this could have been that? So I give props for that.
That one's not too big a stretch. This one's a stretch.
Okay.
Palpatine intentionally made Snoke to look like Vader's helmet. Snoke was the driving force behind Ben Solo's fall to the dark side. And in The Rise of Skywalker, it revealed he was actually a creation of Sidious all along. A close look at Snoke's misshapen head reveals several similarities to the warped helmet. This is where you'll do the dissolve, Frank, when you're up.
Oh, sure.
That his face has a warped helmet look that once belonged to Kylo Ren's grandfather. Kylo Ren idolized Vader and displayed the ruined helmet in his personal quarters, meditating with it. Palpatine would have known exactly how to subliminally win Ren's blind trust by playing on his love for Vader. That one, I'm going to say, is debunked. I'm trying to look at him. He doesn't even look like Vader to me. So no. I don't even see the... Yeah, I don't
That's pretty ridiculous to me. And they kind of squared it away in The Rise of Skywalker. It was a failed clone, mishmash, science and all that, blah, blah, blah.
Brandon. It's only the Sith knew. Yeah, he's clearly modeled after Kino Loy, so it's it's not. Yeah, no way, Jose.
Okay, I'm saving the ones that are really meaty and good for the end here.
You better.
There's two bangers of it, but I got a couple more here, a couple more ridiculous ones here that are always fun to talk about too. I like this one. I don't think it's true. I'm going to say it's debunked, but it's really cool. Vader's turn to the light happened much earlier in Return of the Jedi, and we all saw it. You just didn't realize it. In Return of the Jedi, and this is from Rancor. This is a website called Rancor now, not Rancor like the creature, just Rancor. In Return of the Jedi, Darth Vader actually stopped Luke from starting the path to the dark side by deflecting Luke's strike against the Emperor. Remember that famous shot where the two sabers are right in front of him and he's smiling?
Mm-hmm.
Through the whole movie, Luke says he can feel the good in Vader and that the Emperor hasn't driven it out of him yet. Then in the elevator, Luke declares that his father is truly dead if he was to surrender Luke willingly to the dark side. To the Emperor. Knowing that it was the killing of this is Anakin now. Knowing that it was his killing of Dooku that started him on the path of the dark side, Anakin decides to protect his son from making the same mistake. Therefore, he keeps Luke from joining the dark side by preventing him from striking down and killing the Emperor. What say you, Brandon Hanna?
I've heard a similar theory in the past with the retconning kind of like from The Rise of Skywalker, where there's new lore was introduced where like by killing like the Sith master before you, like all the Sith pass into you and you carry on that legacy almost literally. And so it's like that if Luke had killed Palpatine in hatred in that moment, Palpatine's life would have passed into Luke and then he would have become like the new emperor. And then Vader like knew this, and so he was preventing that. So I've heard like that version of the theory before.
That's interesting.
But I like it. I think I'm inclined to agree. I like Kevin's version better. I think the other version becomes a little like ridiculous. They need to flesh that out more in like the
what other one
comics or something. The fact that his like all the Sith would have passed into Luke just like in The Rise of Skywalker if he cut him down. But yeah, no, I agree. I think he was protecting Luke more than he was protecting the Emperor.
Yeah, I like the idea that the cracks, if you will, started on that walkway on Endor when he's like, "That's why you won't bring me to the Emperor now." that conversation there to me already was like, if Vader was truly, deep into the dark side as he was at one point, he would have said nothing to Luke and brought him straight to the Emperor, but he didn't, and Luke knew this. He could sense it. And Vader knew it. He's like, I think at that point, Vader was like, I know my destiny from here on out. I know what's going to happen. As much as Palpatine knew it, but he was so what does he say to Luke? His faith in his friends is
your
his
faith in your friends is yours. Yeah, your
weakness.
Your overconfidence is your weakness.
Overconfidence, right? And so I think with Palpatine seeing this version, but Vader I think also saw a version, and he was like, yeah, I'm gonna end up saving my son. It's just, it's gonna take a bit to get there. It's gonna take a battle to get there. But I also do like this idea that him, quote unquote, protecting Palpatine from Luke is really flashing back to the Dooku days and all that, blah blah blah, how Anakin started. Yeah. So I actually like that. I like that a lot, and I could buy into the life force BS stuff flowing into Luke. Sure, why not? That's fun.
I just think it's cool. I think less about the life force and more just about, don't do it, son. It's like if Anakin were in there, he'd be like, don't do this, man. Like, keep fighting me right now. I do think that in that scene on the little bridge outside the AT-AT or whatever on Andor, Obi-Wan once thought as you do. Like, he's not even convinced of himself that he's realizing it now that it's like you can see his face through the mask in that when he's like looking down at the saber, and then when Luke leaves, and then he doesn't go right away with him. He's not like matter of fact business following him into the elevator or into the walker or whatever. He's standing there looking out into the
it's
forest,
such a vulnerable portrayal of Vader at that point that we haven't seen at all prior to that. It's a really interesting scene, man. The more and more I look at it.
Now, this one is 100% false, but we got to read it. We have to make excuses for everything these days. Just watch scene 68C or whatever where they redo it. But they're talking about how an old Obi-Wan and Vader couldn't afford any mistakes. That's why their duel is so boring. So
if I go
mechanical.
here...
Now, the reason it's so mechanical, and first of all, it was 1977. Right. Also, you're dealing with two old people. Although I just heard, I saw a meme that Vader dies at the age of 46, which means in A New Hope, he's like 44, which is my age. I'm Vader's age right now.
You're Vader? Oh my
I'm
God.
Vader like in A New Hope, but I think I could do a lot better than those two are doing. Now, if you watch where they redid it, you see the capability of what they could have done with Vader and Obi-Wan with modern techniques and stuff. I think it's called Scene 38C or whatever. Google it, you'll find it. I'm sure Frank is showing it on that. It's really cool. A lot of cool shots there. And I'm going to keep talking about it because I really want Frank to show the footage right here.
That's great.
But the reason why Obi-Wan and Vader's fight in the early is because at first, George Lucas's direction said that these are giant swords, like heavy swords from the Victorian days or whatever, from the medieval days. So they're really not twirling it around like it's a flashlight, and more saying that new light would be really, really heavy. So that's why it's like really hard for them. And he kind of changed his mind on it later. But here's what this theory says. It says the reason why Obi-Wan and Vader's fight is so incredibly restricted is that they have both become such absolute masters of the Force and dueling that they can only afford to make the most minimal movements because they can already sense how each opponent would react.
I mean, okay.
And as you see a taste of that in the Old Wounds episode of Rebels, where Maul's fighting style and the use of the Force has not evolved, and therefore he still uses flashy moves, where Kenobi was refined in his ability to the point where he saw that while Maul needed all these moves, Kenobi only needed one and struck him down.
Yeah.
That sways me a little, but still, it's it's a byproduct of the day and age. The movie in the 50s, the gunfight of the OK Corral, is not as interesting, or it's great. It's still a great movie. The original, I forget, 50s or 60s or whatever. But the Tombstone did the gunfight of the OK Corral way more modern, and it's a fact of movie making. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think you're 100% correct. It's just a byproduct of how stuff was made, how stuff was choreographed. Because, I mean, you only go a few short years later, they have way better choreography in Empire Strikes Back. That's not to say they couldn't have done that in A New Hope. They just techniques and things of that nature just takes time to advance in movie making, and that's kind of in 77 that's where they were at. That's just where they were at.
Brandon?
Yeah, I was gonna say the same point about George Lucas's direction about making them heavy in the original film, but I kind of like this theory paired up with that scene from Rebels when he fights Maul. I kind of dig it.
Yeah, but then it's all thrown out the window in the later movies where they start swinging it around again. So that's kind of, I'll give a couple honorable mentions, which means unless you have something strong to say, I'll just kind of read a couple of these before I get to the three main ones. They're quick. You could see Palpatine's spirit leave his body and return to the Jedi. You know that stuff that like flies up.
I do like this
They're
one.
Saying that's his spirit. I guess you could reverse headcanon that.
Yeah. I can roll with that one.
This one I like.
I don't like it, but I can.
It's like I respect it. I don't like it, but I respect it, or whatever Lando says in Solo. Star Wars was originally planned to be a post-droid universe.
Whoa!
I finally finished reading Dune and also rewatched A New Hope and noticed this connection. I'm not sure, but I haven't discussed it before. But there's very many clues, and they talk about the droids. There's some droids allowed here. The only theory I like about any of this, and I'm just going to twist it into my own theory, is we don't want their kind there about the droids. If you had your galaxy turned into a huge civil war between factions and planets, and one of the armies was fully droids, I think a lot of the galaxy would be quite hesitant to trust droids again, right? So I think that the cantina owner or whatever, the bartender, probably was a veteran of the Clone Wars or just hates all droids because he lost his uncle to the Clone Wars, right? His grandparents were killed on Scarif. Not Scarif, man. I'm messing it up. I'm tired. His grandparents were killed on Ryloth, and so I think he hates droids. But I like that. There was a theory that moving forward they were going to try to like replace all the droids, and it's mentioned in the Mandalorian that someone says he hates droids. The Mandalorian says he hates droids and refuses to work with them. So there's something there. I don't know if you have anything to add on that. Then the other one is related to droids. Is that we've already met K2SO in season 1 of Andor. And you know who he is? B2EMO. Evidence.
Oh my god.
Cassian explicitly trusts B2EMO as well as K2SO. K2SO sounds nothing like the original K2 droids. He has a monotone grunt of a voice. This I disagree with. I feel like it was the same actor. I think it was Alan Tudyk who did the voice of it, just did it more monotone. Both droids make jokes and even lie. B2EMO specifically explains why this is rare for droids. It takes them out a lot of power. Solo introduced the idea that droids can transfer consciousness, such as L337 transferred into the Falcon. And thematically, it makes sense for B2EMO to have a growth arc. No, B2EMO doesn't deserve an arc, doesn't need an arc.
Oh, okay, we get it.
We don't need to go into that. What say you guys on that one?
I think that one is plausible, but I don't think that's what happened. I think certainly you could transfer one consciousness from, if you wanted to transfer the consciousness from C-3PO or R2-D2 into 3PO, I think there could be an in-universe way to do that. I don't think that's what's going to happen with B2 and K2, but it's fun to throw out there.
Yeah, I agree. Plausible, but unlikely.
Now the nitty-gritty, my two favorites. One, Darth Jar Jar. Jar Jar Binks has drawn so much criticism over the years because of his goofy and silly presence and otherwise politically focused prequel trilogy. According to one theory, though, and I've seen videos on this too, it's really interesting, Jar Jar is much more than he appears. If this theory is to believe, Jar Jar is a Sith who is assisting Palpatine as he infiltrates the Jedi. While it might seem laughable at first, the theory states that Jar Jar only pretended to be foolish and clumsy when he was actually a key player in Anakin's fall in the dark side. George Lucas himself said that Jar Jar was originally the key to the prequels. Which might explain even his Sith yellow eyes. And if you see Sith yellow eyes. Now, here are the other things that's not in this article. It's back to Screen Rant. This video talked about the drunken style fighting, and like they have all this video evidence of like he was just looking like he was trembling, but he was twirling that. He knew exactly what he was doing, twirling the droid around and shooting blaster bolts. And someone can only be so clumsy, right? But the one that I heard, which is the craziest thing, is that the Phantom Menace was about him. That's the name of him. And in interviews, he was saying that Jar Jar was key, and that his idea for that ending, since Jar Jar was so hated, backtracked and he created Count Dooku instead. But originally, Jar Jar was going to finally like just drop the fucking act when they were on in that hangar on Geonosis, and instead of Dooku versus Yoda, it was going to be Darth Jar Jar basically like turning on Obi-Wan and Anakin and fucking him up. And then the whole purpose was, I don't know if there was an interview somewhere or if this is what the video said, but they were saying that George likened Jar Jar as the opposite of Yoda. Yoda was the Jedi in Empire Strikes Back that you thought was just this little old hermit, this little or not hermit, like a little, fairy creature, and he was going to go find him, the great master Yoda, right? Even Luke doesn't believe it. And so he was saying that this would have been Jar Jar, because then instead of Dooku versus Yoda, it was going to be Jar Jar versus Yoda, and it was going to be the antithesis of Yoda. It's like another goofy-looking character that you wouldn't think is a Sith versus the one that you wouldn't think is a Jedi, and then they go heads up. And Jar Jar, I think, would have been killed in this one. But yeah, or maybe just taken out. But yeah, this is the Darth Jar Jar theory. There's tons of videos about it. And it kind of makes sense to the Phantom Menace if you want to apply it to him. He's so goofy, and I think that maybe one day George on his deathbed maybe will admit and say, "Yeah, I actually pulled a flipped the bitch on
He'll
that
be
one."
like, "I'm Deep Throat."
Yeah. What do you guys think? It is the most wacky one of all, compared to this next one, which I think is actually really legit. Do you guys think that Jar Jar Binks could have been a Sith Lord and George Lucas wimped out on it?
No. No. I understand people had such disdain for Jar Jar way back in the day, and some still do to this day, whatever. And this was just a way to kind of circumvent that, be like, oh, but you shouldn't hate Jar Jar because he's actually the Phantom Menace. He's actually a Sith Lord. He was just tricking you with all his, myopic behavior or sophomoric behavior and all that, blah, blah, blah. No, he's a Gungan. He's a dummy. He's silly. He's, whatever. It's interesting how, I will say, it is funny to see people twist certain things to fit this narrative, and you go, well, that's inventive, but no.
What about when Jar Jar uses hand gestures when he wants to change someone's opinion? Maybe he's using a mind trick on Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon in that desert. Or in that
on the weak-minded, my friend. I'm with Frank. It's a super fun theory. I could talk about it all day, but yeah, at the end of the day, I don't take it too seriously.
Ahmed Best and George Lucas have all but confirmed it. George Lucas once claimed that Jar Jar was his favorite Star Wars character, referring to him as the key to the whole saga in the making of documentary for Episode 1. Jar Jar Binks actor Ahmed Best tweeted that it feels really good when the hidden meaning behind the work is seen, no matter how long it takes. Darth Jar Jar might have been one of those Star Wars prequels with the unused ideas that existed among the cast and crew but never made it on screen. I feel like it would have leaked by now, but I think Ahmed Best probably had a little fun with it. And then last but not least, guys, for our probably record short episode, because I think we were down for 10 minutes with my technical issues. I think this one's legit. This is my headcanon every time I watch it. Do you guys, let me see if you guys can guess what it's from. I'll give you the movie it's from.
Can I say something real quick? Quick about how George says that Jar Jar was the key to it all?
Yeah.
I believe that's in reference to the fact that Jar Jar is an all-digital character. If this digital character is not believable, the whole movie will not work, or a good chunk of the movie will not work, because you cannot believe that Liam Neeson and Ewan McGregor are talking to Jar Jar Binks. Like, if that doesn't work, then your movie doesn't work. And I think that's what he means by he's the key to it. Not that he's like the key to the grand plan of the story. He's the key to the execution of the movie in a technical sense. That's just me.
I feel like you're racist against Gungans because you don't think
it.
That
you found me. You found me out. You got me.
He infiltrated the Senate, bro.
Okay.
Brandon, what do you think? Like, truly, after he says that.
Yeah, I agree with Frank on that.
All right. I won't even let you guys try to guess because you've lost all respect for you. Padme's life force was used to create Darth Vader. I've told you guys about this myself.
Ad nauseum. You bring this up whenever you can. We've heard this about 17 different times.
That's the only reason I wanted this whole topic lifting up. When Padme gives birth to Luke and Leia following her confrontation with Anakin on Mustafar, the medical droids announce they cannot save her because she simply, inexplicitly lost the will to live. However, one theory suggests that her life was actually being drained, force drained, which is a power in KOTOR, by the way, by Darth Sidious, who is using the already delicate life force to keep the mortally wounded Darth Vader alive on the lava banks of Mustafar. Sidious wouldn't have wanted to lose such a powerful apprentice, as he already spoken of Darth Plagueis' power over life and death. Unbeknownst to Anakin at the time, Palpatine himself was Plagueis' apprentice who learned all of these tricks. This also makes Padme's death more believable, as she never was a character who would just give up so easily. She would have wanted to fight for her children, especially when her dying words revealed her belief that Anakin was still good. This theory basically states that her heartbeat stops right when Vader's breathing begins, and that he's just across the universe, across the stars, their love theme. Whoa! Across the stars.
You just now got it? You just now got it?
No, I knew that, but across the stars.
22 years later, you just now figured it out?
I knew the name of the title, but I'm saying I'm relating to this theory that across the stars, he was sucking Padme's life force out and putting in Anakin. And that's why Vader was able to live, because, they're saying it looks like she died of a broken heart. A lot of people rejected that, thought that was silly. I just think it's either that the droid should have come out and been like, oh, no, she's suffering a blah, blah, blah embolism and clots and preeclampsia and, all the crazy stuff. We can get really dark and dirty about it. But no, I like this theory. I think it's like it leads credence to it, and it makes it even more evil when Palpatine's like telling her, like, in your anger, you killed her. Like, first of all, how would Palpatine know that she was dead at this point? No one knew that Palpatine was dead. He flew to Coruscant. They're rebuilding it. They're licking their wounds and giving birth on Paulus Mass or whatever. So he knew she was dead by saying, "It appears in your anger, you killed her," because he knew he just sucked the life force out of her, and he wanted to lay the truth on her. Like, look, your fucking girl is dead, and he's even smiling as he says it. So I say this theory is true. What do you think, Frank? You go second. Brandon, you go second.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about this one. I love the idea that's shown in, like, with Grogu and the Rise of Skywalker, that Jedi can take life force from themselves to heal other people. I don't know how I feel about Sith being able to unwillingly take it from someone and give it to someone else. I do like the idea of Sith being able to, like, use their, like, anger and their hatred to keep themselves alive, like Darth Maul. So yeah, I'm not 100% sure that's one. I just think it's like, cinematic poetry, how they, she dies and he breathes at the same time. I just think it's like a movie thing. like, like it's just a nice symbolic moment.
Frank, what do you think? Come on, Frank.
Here's what I'll say. Again, it's kind of the same thing with Kylo and Han. It's actually, in my opinion, if Palpatine's like, I need to use the life force from Padme, who's like a light side being, if you will, to put into my dark side apprentice, like, what does that say about what he thinks about the dark side? That the anger alone within the Anakin of the dark side can't keep him alive? Like, so I need to put a life force of someone who's good into Anakin to keep him alive? That just doesn't make any, like, Star Wars universe sense to me. Like, if the dark side is so strong, and Brandon pointed out, that's what Darth Maul does. He toils in his rage to keep him alive, and Palpatine does want that for Vader. He wants him miserable as hell. So all he has to do, first of all, is tell Anakin / Vader that, yeah, Padme's dead. That's going to enrage him no matter what. He doesn't have to suck the life force out of Padme to keep Anakin alive. If he wanted to kill Padme, he could kill Padme. Like, Palpatine, that is, doesn't need to transfer her life force into Anakin or into Vader. So, I mean, it's an interesting thought. I like that someone thought of this and was like, well, what if this was a possibility? Because it does dabble in what's possible with the Force, and I don't, I'm not going to poo-poo the idea, but it doesn't just for me, I don't think the Star Wars, quote unquote, Star Wars science, Force science, I don't think it meshes with the overall Force landscape, if you will.
You guys are no fun. No fun.
I give you have no retort. That's why it's no fun for you, because you know I'm right.
Padme died of a broken heart. What did she die of then?
I'm sorry George wrote himself into a corner. That's not my fault. All Georges have that problem, apparently.
Medically, she's okay. Cut that line out of the Frank cut then.
No.
When you
I like that.
Whatever.
I like that Padme died of a broken heart. I really do. Because I think that speaks to the connection Anakin and Padme had.
Just fuck her kids then. The kids will live out. You're not a parent, so you wouldn't know. But I would.
I
would die.
Once a year, I get this. Once a year, I get. Yo, you don't got kids. You would understand.
Right. I've never used that as a weapon.
I know you've never.
Just for the record, he's joking. I don't think I've ever said that sentence.
No, you.
Anyway.
Never.
But it's one thing, man. When you have that kid, it changed my whole perspective.
With
my own battle with cancer and all that.
Yes.
If Padme was me and she got colon cancer, she would have been like, I don't want to do chemo. I'm done. I'm done. So no, she was forcefully taken away, her life force. And you know what? That's the only theory. That and Darth Jar Jar are both the only theories that are on both websites. Just so you know, those two are the ones that were on both websites. The others were all unique to their website. So that was it. That was our episode about which camera am I looking into? This one. Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's my producer over there. He's in the booth shouting that we're running over. So yeah, that's our episode. Make sure you like and subscribe this channel. Share this. We're gonna have a real clickbaity title for this one, maybe a clickbaity thumbnail, because this is the kind of video that I think is gonna skyrocket us to the top. So, yeah, Frank, why don't you land the bird after I set you up there, and we'll continue on, and we'll see you next week, fellas and ladies.
Yeah, hit subscribe on our channel, YouTube, podcast feed if you'd like so. Sure. Leave a like, sure. Follow us all on our socials. Links in the description. Again, podcast feed, YouTube. We're trying to hit 600 subscribers. A small little goal for us over here.
We're trying to hit one more subscriber since the Comic-Con. So
right.
We've been sitting pat 521 since Comic-Con in LA. We must have said something.
Yeah, well, hey, we didn't lose subscribers, so that's a positive. That's a positive. Until next week, I'm Frank Janish. That was Kevin Smets, Brandon Hanna. We'll be talking more about Star Wars next week. What do we got cooking next week? Tune in to find out. We'll see you then.
Scoundrel. I like the sound of that.